Let's get into today's episode. We're presented by our partners at Bet Rivers. We're presented by Underdog Fantasy. Using the code FIELD gets you a 100% deposit match up to $100. Gentlemen, before we get into previewing the Final Four, just kind of any big picture takeaways from the second weekend. Anything that you're sitting here saying, this is something that we need to remember. This is something that is going to matter moving forward. Fanta, I'll go to you first.
Well, I just think that the way that Florida Atlantic has gone on this run, the narrative out there from the casual person is that they're wearing Cinderella's slipper. And I get that. I get that it's easy to make that claim. But to me, they're not a Cinderella. They've played 38 games. They've won 35 of them. This team was outstanding all season long coming into this tournament. And they absolutely deserve to be where they are. 11-1. 11-1 in games decided by 5 points or less. A 46-year-old named Dusty May in Boca Raton, Florida, has built an incredible team. And a team that earned their way here. Honestly, the amount of respect that I had for Marquise Noel, Jerome Tang, and Kansas State was through the roof. So much so that I felt at one point during this tournament that it didn't matter who they played. They were going to find a way to win. And I was sorely mistaken. I love FAU. Everything about them. I love the way that they've played in closing time in these games. I love that it doesn't have to be John L. Davis every single time. They go a legit 8 or 9 deep. I love that Brandon Weatherspoon comes out of nowhere and hits a clutch 3 in your eye hole to seal up the win over K-State. For FAU, Florida Atlantic University, to go into Madison Square Garden and beat Tennessee and Kansas State, what I would call grown men teams, is simply amazing, memorable, and I don't think they're done yet.
I think one thing we can take away is just how there's so many different ways to skin a cat. And what do I mean by that? UConn has one transfer, but for the most part, it's a bunch of guys that Hurley recruited. FAU, bunch of guys that they recruited on their own, some younger players that they recruited on their own that, quite frankly, guys, a lot of sophomores, a lot of juniors, those are guys that were recruited by FAU while the transfer portal was being introduced. Therefore, where a lot of high majors were recruiting the portal, the guys that they would have been recruiting are going down a level. And what happens? FAU, they grab some guys. San Diego State's been portal heavy for a long time. And then Miami did it through NIL.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of different ways to be good right now. What I'll also say is, I think it was Borzello who tweeted this out. For the first time since, I don't know when, this is the first Final Four without a single McDonald's All-American on any roster. Yeah. Now, what does that mean? They're older teams. They're more physical teams. They're playing against grown men. I wonder, as soon as this COVID year is finally over, at what point does the power of the one and done return? Because I think it's going to. Because now that these 17 and 18-year-olds are playing 24-year-olds, it's different than playing 22-year-olds. I'm curious to see how that's going to progress over the next 3 or 4 years. But that being said, while the casual fan doesn't necessarily enjoy the fact that Duke and North Carolina and Kentucky and all these teams are in, appreciate this for what it is. It's a lot of really good basketball being played by 4 teams that do it in different ways. And if you understand nuance, this is a great Final Four. If you don't understand nuance, there's a lot that's going to be blown right past you.
Yeah. What I'll say is this, and on your point about the McDonald's All-Americans, Tio, I think a lot of that has to do with what this class is and the fact that the 3 dudes that could have been game changers in the 2022 class are all playing some level of professional basketball, whether it's Scoot Henderson, the Thompson twins, whatever. Those guys didn't end up on campus. If they ended up on campus, it'd be a different conversation. It's also the last.
Do you think they'd be in the Final Four?
Depends on where they went, but
Scoot was going to go to Auburn.
I think that would have changed a lot of things for Auburn.
They wouldn't have been a Final Four team.
I think it would have changed a lot of things for Auburn. They would have been really good. I don't know if they would have made a Final Four, but you put in a guard that's that good on Auburn, I think it changes a lot of things. Either way, I also think part of it is just it's not a very good recruiting class, and I don't think next year is going to be all that good either, and the year after that might not be very good.
But okay. So you just said 3 straight recruiting classes aren't going to be good.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
they're down. They're down.
No,
Well, the 2022 class, I don't think
because they're not looked at. They're not looked at as good because they're going to go. They're going to go and play against older players. Of course, they're not looked at as good.
No, I'm basically. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be a recruiting expert. I am parroting what a lot of those recruiting. One of the guys at when we were at Adidas in 2022 last year, T.O., one of the guys told me that
I'm on a show. Mom, we're live. Don't scream shit. Go. And Mom, Maria's inside.
This is
My
not
mom
getting
comes
cut
up,
out.
just starts cursing.
This is not getting cut out. This is not.
No, that was really good. Also,
we don't have to.
You should
It's
say
Lena's
you're
star
sorry to your
turn.
mom.
It's Lena's star turn.
You should say you're
Come say
sorry
hello.
to your mom.
She just came in and
How
cursed.
are
right here.
you?
Hello, how are you?
Sorry, no.
It's okay. You're
Don't
all
be
right.
sorry at all. He's
Don't
being
be
a
sorry.
jerk.
I'm being a jerk, apparently. All right,
We're leaving.
bye-bye.
Hey, we're leaving this in. That is absolutely not getting cut out. Either
They're
way, I
leaving
don't
it
think.
in.
I do
right.
want to make one point real quick. There's actually 2 points I want to make on this Final Four. One, it's the importance and the value of continuity, right? If you look at what San Diego State has, Nathan Mensah's been there for like 17 years at this point. Same thing with Adam Seiko. Same thing with Agueka Rope. Matt Bradley's been there for 2 years now. Lamont Butler's he's a junior. He's been there for 3 years. Kashad Johnson's been there for 4 years. Their starting lineup, their core rotation has been there for a while, and then they've added pieces to it to help them get better. UConn's core, Andre Jackson, 3rd year. Adama Sanogo, 3rd year. Jordan Hawkins, 2nd year. They added pieces to the group of guys that they already had to kind of fill out where you need things filled out. If you look at what Miami, Florida has, yes, they added Norchad O'Meara and Nigel Pack, but they also have Jordan Miller, who's been there for 3 years. Wooga Poplar is in his 2nd year. Isaiah Wong he's like a 4th year junior or something like that. Like they have a core.
Bensley Joseph, they've got guys too.
Yeah, that they have a core that they added to. Same thing with Florida Atlantic. Like those guys, they're not just going out and building a new roster every single year, and I think that that's important. The other thing I want to say is this idea that like there's no good teams in the Final Four. Like, okay, first of all, UConn's a 4 seed. They're also number 1 on KenPom by a significant margin right now. They're number 1 on Torvik by a significant margin. Like that's a very good basketball team that had a down stretch that kind of torpedoed what their seeding could be. San Diego State is 31-6. Miami is 29-7, and they won the ACC regular season title. Florida Atlantic won 35 fucking games. Like, okay, we don't have the biggest brand name programs here, but to act like there aren't very, very good basketball teams in this Final Four, it's just kind of like, what are we talking about? What are we doing here? Today's episode is presented by Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play college basketball's pick'em, where you get real cash prizes simply by picking player stats in this weekend's games. In pick'em, all you do is pick whether a player will go higher or lower in Underdog's projected totals. That's points, rebounds, whatever. If you're like me and you think Marquise Noel is going to go absolutely nuts this weekend, pick higher on his points projection, throw in a couple of other picks, and if you hit them all, you can win 20 times your money on a single game. Underdog's slick mobile app is easy enough that dummies like Jeff Goodman have even figured it out. So go to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app and use the code FIELD, FIELD, to get a 100% deposit match up to $100. Get in on the madness now.